WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Thanks for staying up with us tonight. I'm Quentin Smith. Restrictions on area businesses are constricting city budgets, and salaries and services are feeling the pinch. Starkville decided to delay employee pay raises that were set to start this month until June 18th. The city also agreed on a 60-day hiring freeze. However, the Director of Parks and Recreation and water treatment operator positions are exempt from the freeze. The board also agreed upon a suspension of travel and equipment purchases for the next 60 days, but existing projects are exempt. Paid administrative leave for city staff will continue until April 21st.
As it stands right now, our revenue source is dropping dramatically. And those are some of the things, while I won't say they're easy, they are some of the low-hanging fruit of things that we can keep from having our costs go up, which is what a pay raise would do. So trying to take costs down and keep them from going up was the effort I was trying to get at with my 3 proposals this evening that the board were in agreement with.
The city will also enforce a curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Well, after passing a resolution ordering child care facilities to close, city leaders in Columbus are now reversing that decision. The city council says Governor Tate Reeves' executive order deemed daycares to be essential, giving them the right to remain open. City leaders agreed to follow that same notion. This means daycare centers in Columbus now have the option to open their doors if they choose to. However, there are a few restrictions. The centers must wash their children's hands regularly, take precautions to prevent kids from touching their hands, nose, and mouth, and limit children from going into multiple rooms, just to name a few. If caught violating these conditions, the centers can be fined $1,000 or owners spend up to 90 days in jail. Louisville joins the growing number of cities and towns putting curfews in place, and leaders clarify the city's shelter-in-place order. During tonight's meeting, city leaders unanimously passed a 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in the city. It mirrors those put in place in Winston County and several other cities and calls for a $300 fine or up to 6 months in jail for violators. Alderman also detailed what activities are allowed and disallowed under the existing shelter-in-place order, and they sharpened the definition of essential businesses. They also put a limit on how many people are allowed in essential businesses, such as grocery stores, capping them at no more than 10% of their legal occupancy at one time. Well, counties and cities all across Mississippi have been issuing their own curfews. Our Cash Matlock explains why they're taking this matter into their own hands and how area law enforcement plan to enforce such orders.
Winston County has issued a mandatory curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sheriff Jason PUGH says during this time, officers will be looking for very specific behavior.
What we won't tolerate is people that are out stalking our businesses that are already suffering because they're not open. We're watching our local businesses. We're watching our local residences. The intention is to protect our citizens.
However, PUGH says officers will not be stopping every car that comes along.
If you have to be at work, if you have things you have to do, we are making those exceptions for legitimate reasons.
On Monday, the OKTIBBEHA County Board of Supervisors met here to enact a curfew set to take place over the next 30 days, with violators facing up to $1,000 in fines and up to 30 days in jail.
When you say curfew, that kind of people understand that.
OKTIBBEHA County Sheriff Steve Gladney says when one county goes under a curfew, it can cause trouble for neighboring counties who are not under a curfew.
So everybody thought it was okay to come to OKTIBBEHA County, and we broke up large gatherings all weekend where people were partying and that type of thing.
Gladney says his officers are only targeting large gatherings of people and suspicious activity.
If you're coming through a neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning driving slow, it's a pretty good chance you're going to get stopped. You might have a good reason, may not have a good reason.
With the shelter-in-place order, there really isn't much reason to be out anyway.
So there really are not a whole lot of legitimate things that somebody would want to be out doing under this shelter-in-place order after 9 o'clock.
And the sooner the people will start going by the guidelines, the sooner we'll get back to normalcy. So.
That was our Cash Matlock reporting there. Noxubee County is also issuing a curfew from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. Violators could be fined up to $500.
Some rain and thunder showers around earlier today. All of that now scooted away into Alabama. We are still socked underneath the clouds here in North Mississippi in many spots, also in the northwest Alabama. But for the most part, the rain is done. Mostly cloudy in the morning. We are in the 60s all night long. Now, by midday, we're back into the 80s, or at least the upper 70s, I think. A chance for some spotty storms during the course of our Wednesday afternoon. Some of these may flare up during the daytime heating. Some of those could become locally strong. That would be wave number one. A second wave of storms is possible after midnight tomorrow night. That will come out of Tennessee along a cold front. Some of those could produce some gusty wind. We'll have more on that and look ahead at your Easter weekend in just a few minutes.
As cases of COVID-19 increase, people are getting more curious about who exactly is getting this virus. Well, we learned some new information about that, and we want to pass it along to you tonight. Courtney Ann Jackson explains.
The Mississippi Department of Health is listing data like the ages and gender of those who've tested positive for COVID-19 on their website. But the state epidemiologist says we're learning more as more cases mean more data to analyze.
Right now, we're looking at about 50%, maybe a little bit more, of cases occurring in African Americans. We're also seeing more than 50% of the deaths occurring in African Americans. This is troubling, obviously.
The obvious follow-up question to that is the question of why.
In those deaths, there's a higher rate of underlying chronic medical problems. This is not surprising. We knew that those individuals who are most impacted and have a higher risk of death and complications are those individuals with chronic underlying problems.
Mississippi isn't alone in these type statistics. Our neighbors in Louisiana are reporting more than 70% of those who've died from the virus there are African American. So I asked, are there additional resources in Mississippi that may be directed to certain communities or counties?
Well, certainly testing needs to occur, and we'll have those discussions to make sure that we have testing available. We need to be able to identify those cases.
We are encouraging leaders in the African American community, but leaders across our state to also step up and communicate to either, if you're an elected leader, to your constituents, if you're a pastor, to your parishioners. Let's communicate and talk about the dangers that exist out there, and there are dangers to anyone that has chronic medical conditions.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
The state epidemiologist says the health department does plan to add some of this data about the racial disparities to their website. Itawamba Community College's health science programs are helping local healthcare professionals caring for coronavirus patients. ICC's nursing and surgical technology programs have donated personal protective equipment to North Mississippi Medical Center. The respiratory care technology program has also loaned 3 ventilator machines, and the surgical technology program has donated PPE items to Sanctuary Hospice in Tupelo. Many of ICC's students are employed by North Mississippi Health Services when they graduate. College officials say it's important to help those on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, in response to the coronavirus, Mississippi State is providing students with a pass-fail option for grades this semester. COVID-19 has moved all classes online. Faculty will enter A through F letter grades by 10 a.m. on May 4th as normal. Undergraduate students can accept that letter grade or choose the pass-fail option. Here's that option. S for satisfactory will be given to letter grades A, B, and C. P for passing will be given for letter grade D, and U for satisfactory and a letter grade of F.
We cannot allow the COVID-19 crisis to torpedo the academic progress of our students who are dealing with the interruption of their semesters through no fault of their own. They deserve informed choices about their grades. This new policy provides just that.
Students have until 10 a.m. on May 7th to make a decision. Letter S, P, or U will be on the transcript, but will not be calculated in the grade point average on the transcript. Graduate school rules are different. And now turning our attention over to weather. Keith, we received a little bit of rainfall today,
What kind of grade will we give this forecast for Easter? What do you want to give?
We'll give it a U.
A U?
A big old U.
Okay. We got some storms in the forecast here, so I tell you what, we'll see what happens here. There could be some strong storms on Easter Sunday. Still a bit iffy on that, but we do have a chance for storms tomorrow and tomorrow night. We'll talk about that in your full forecast next.
For WCBI First Alert AccuWeather Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Temperatures warming up for our Wednesday. We had some cooler weather today with the rain and thunder showers around, but tomorrow I think we're back into the mid to maybe upper 80s depending on the cloud cover situation. Yeah, there could be a few showers and storms that will pop up during the daytime heating. We don't expect widespread activity during the daylight hours, but anything that does happen to flare up during the heating could be locally strong. We'll watch it. Winds from the south at about 5 to 15. Here's our first alert forecast for tonight, and we have Marcel. Marcel is going to be enjoying some cooler weather by Friday. We fall into the 60s. Now 80s tomorrow, 70s Thursday, and then cooler weather as we close out this week. Right now, a live radar sweep shows no rain in North Mississippi or West Alabama, our coverage area. We've cleared out the rain. A lot of cloud cover out there, though. You can see this evening at Durham's Pharmacy in Vernon, the clouds holding on, some of those lingering showers there. And that really was synonymous with what we've had all day long. Gloomy and some cooler weather out there with the rain. Some of you got 1 to 2 plus inches, some of you not as much, but it's been wet around here. But it's pretty mild just about everywhere here across the deep south. Humidity extremely high. Dew point values on the way up. The amount of moisture in the air, the amount of moisture that is available for some rain and storms. So let me show you this. Tomorrow morning we wake up to overcast conditions here. Temperatures probably in the mid to upper 60s. By midday we'll warm things up into the upper 70s, at least maybe some low 80s. We may see a shower storm early. Also a chance going into the afternoon and early evening, but a pretty spotty activity. Notice those temperatures pretty warm, I think. Even with some clouds around, we will likely be well into the 80s in many spots. Tomorrow evening, a bit of a lull after sunset. Temperatures still in the 70s. It should be a nice evening to be out and about in the neighborhood. Now, after midnight tomorrow night, maybe after 1 or 2 o'clock, we'll be watching for a batch of storms that will roll out of Tennessee with a cold front. Now, this particular model doesn't show a lot across our area, but it is picking up on some clouds, and that could actually change into some storms on future updates here. So we would expect a dying batch of storms coming in tomorrow night. Some of those could produce some gusty wind here. And we'll clear that out as we get into your Thursday, becoming sunny with some cooler temperatures. Now, the severe weather threat here tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night, basically a wind and hail threat. The tornado threat's going to be low, flooding's low. We'll keep watching this as we go throughout the next 24 hours. Vanessa will have the very latest in the morning. So warm and potentially stormy tomorrow night. Quiet Thursday and Friday. We may see some late day showers Saturday as we start the weekend. Rain and storms possible Easter Sunday. Again, some of those could be on the stronger side. We'll watch that too. Some cooler and drier weather early next week.
Uncertainty surrounding coronavirus couldn't hit at a worse time for one business. We look at how the fear could be affecting your food when we come back. Welcome back, everyone. Farmers all across the U.S. are facing a new unknown in the agriculture industry. The ripple effect of COVID-19 is impacting many growers in terms of planting crops and distribution. Our Stephanie Poole speaks to a local farmer about the challenges he's already experiencing.
Howard Fasackery is the CEO of Pinnock Produce with Alexander Farms in Vardaman. In his fields, you can find sweet potatoes, corn, and soybeans, but that may all soon come to a halt.
In our area last fall, we had a wet fall and had a hard time getting the crop out, and it was short. We have been wet since last November. We just got in the fields at the end of last week.
Fasackery says with the threat of COVID-19 and excessive rainfall in the area, his production is 3 weeks behind schedule to bed sweet potatoes for this year's crop. And without a crop for the harvest, it will affect business from local buyers.
We've got a lot of potatoes stacking up that are not being used because your restaurant chains are closed. Not having that consumption has really hurt us in the farming industry, not having those contracts filled. Those contracts will be short this year.
Not only is Fasackery uncertain about the vegetables he'll put in the ground, he's concerned on whether if he'll have enough seasonal workers to actually get the job done.
We're going to need all these other boys in the second week in May. We're going to be looking for our summertime crews to come in to do the actual planting and harvesting. If we don't get these boys, we won't have a crop.
But his biggest worry stretches far beyond his yield. It's the rising prices and international trade.
With the market
markets, even overseas markets with China and things, we're not able to ship our grains to other countries too. So that's affecting these prices on us too. It's really probably devastating to so many growers.
That was our Stephanie Poole reporting there. This accolade encourages all farmers to keep up to date on the news surrounding the COVID-19 situation. Well, a staple for Mississippi State basketball makes a decision on her future with the Bulldogs. More information on number 55 next in sports.
WCBI Sports with Courtney Robb.
In 2020, a warning to be careful with what you post on the internet is commonplace. Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach is having to learn that the internet is forever the hard way. Although Leach deleted an offensive tweet involving a woman knitting a noose, people and players haven't forgotten the tweet and prompted a Mississippi State defensive tackle, Fabian Lovett, to enter the transfer portal. Also prompted athletic director John Cohen to release this statement. Cohen saying, no matter the context, for many Americans, the image of a noose is never appropriate, and that's particularly true in the South and in Mississippi. Mississippi State University was disappointed in the use of such an image in a tweet by Coach Mike Leach. Cohen went on to say MSU has put a plan in place for Leach that involves a lot of education on Mississippi history. You can see the full statement on our website at WCBI.com. It only took 24 hours for the first domino to fall following former Mississippi State head coach Vic Schaefer's departure to Texas. Forward Chloe Bibby announcing on Twitter Monday evening that the junior has officially entered into the NCAA transfer portal. Bibby saying in her post that she came to the decision after long discussions with her family, while also thanking the Bulldog fan base for their support over the last 3 years. After suffering an ACL injury her sophomore year, Bibby returned to the floor and averaged 7.5 points per game for the Bulldogs in the 2019-2020 season. The coronavirus outbreak caused a lot of unusual change to the game of baseball. The MLB can cut the draft down to 5 rounds, and the NCAA has given another year of eligibility to spring athletes. Oddly enough, this might have a positive effect on the competition level in college baseball. Mississippi State head coach Chris Lemonis shared his thoughts. Take a listen.
We keep saying, man, we got a chance to be really good, and then I always follow it up with, I think everybody thinks they have a chance to be really good. So you're going to see college baseball at its highest level in this upcoming year, maybe 2 years, because of the influx of players in the game and the way the draft hits everything. I think you'll see more high school seniors going to a school. So it's going to be interesting, and it'll be very competitive, and we're already in a very competitive league. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure our fans will enjoy it.
Although the 2020 softball season was cut short, Mississippi State didn't need a full season to break records. The Bulldogs finished ranked 20th in the NFCA poll, which is the highest final ranking in school history. WCBI caught up with head coach Samantha Ricketts on what that means for the Bulldogs' future. Take a listen.
We try to look at a lot of this as the positive, and instead of looking at what could have been, where we could have finished, I think we'll take that as a, hey, there's a goal for us that we accomplished, and how do we move forward from that for next season. Our goal is still to host the first regional at News Park, and that's something that we were, I think, on the right track for, and that we want to continue to work for in the future.
Ricketts also said that she has begun conversations with upperclassmen that will be returning, saying that so far so good. Every player the Bulldogs have spoken to plan to return. The high school coaching landscape continues to change by the day. Monday evening, Tupelo head football coach Trent Hammond resigned from his position with the Golden Wave. Hammond spent 7 years at the helm of Tupelo football, leading the Golden Wave to a 64-24 overall record and 1 state championship appearance. Since then, the official announcement has come that Hammond is now the newest defensive coordinator at New Albany. Another high school football coach's resignation coming down the pipe on Tuesday. First reported by Dennis Clayton of the Daily Journal and confirmed by WCBI. East Union head coach Kevin Walton has resigned from his position with the Urchins. Walton has led East Union for the last 5 seasons, finding success in each one. Under Walton, the Urchins have made 5 consecutive playoff appearances, back-to-back division titles in both 2018 and 2019. Walton finishes his time with East Union with a 35-24 overall record. That's it for sports. We'll have more for you when we come back. Stay with us.
His records may never have topped the charts, but those extraordinary songs about ordinary people earned him the devotion of legions of fans, the admiration of his peers and the respect of almost 3 generations of singers and songwriters over a 50-year career. John Prine passed away tonight from complications of the coronavirus. Prine burst onto the Chicago folk scene with songs like Sam Stone and Angel from Montgomery. And even though he only had 1 album break in the top 10, he earned 11 Grammy nominations and 2 wins. John Prine was 73 years old.
A few more storms in the forecast for our Wednesday. On a scattered basis here, maybe some gusty storms tomorrow night. We'll clear that all away. Thursday, Friday, most of Saturday should be okay. Your Easter Sunday, at this point, we're advertising 70s, a chance for some showers and storms there, Quentin, and some of those could be on the strong side. We'll keep you updated.
So what grade would you give this the weather this week, Keith?
Overall, we'll pass it.
Passing grade. We'll take it. Have a good night, everyone.